What's up? The Super Bowl stage is set, finally. I feel like it did fly by this season. Jason Gold is with me, as always, on a Monday to chop it up. Before we talk about the Super Bowl, we'll get into each of these matchups. How's it going? How was your weekend?
Weekend was fantastic. Loved both games. I'm glad that we didn't get two clunkers. Excited for the Super Bowl matchup. We'll talk more about it.
Yeah, very excited. We're getting a rematch of Super Bowl 54, I believe. Let's talk about the AFC Championship. Thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, takeaways. What are you thinking?
Well, you put it out on your socials earlier this week before the game. We said, don't bet against the better quarterback and the better coach. It's exactly how it came through. I think that everyone that was on the Ravens had to see that first drive by Mahomes and be like, oh, shit, we're in trouble. And that's exactly how it played out. I mean, they held them to 17 points, but Mahomes and Kelce did what they did. The Kansas City defense is fantastic. And we can get into the more of the Ravens stuff. I think that's more the interesting side. What the hell were they thinking? What was that game plan? And where does this leave Lamar?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting to me. Like, I was shaking my head the entire time. Why are you not running the ball more? Like, I just don't. Yeah. I'm not really sure how you got away from being the team that was running the ball at almost a 60% rate and then going to that. And then you had Lamar, again, not really using his legs. He was holding on to the ball extremely long. And I saw Dave Fugi tweet this out. Going into the half, Lamar was leading the team in rushing yards, and he was second in receiving yards. Like, it was just a kind of a disaster. And I think if they had stuck to their guns and ran the ball a bit more, we'd have be having maybe a different conversation. It feels like it was always inevitable. Like, we were always getting the Chiefs no matter what. And Zay Flowers, I'm sure, is not having a great day today. Very brutal fumble there at the goal line, as well as that, that the taunting call was on the same drive. But yeah, I don't know what they were doing, why they weren't running the ball more. It was a very interesting game plan.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it either, and I'm not sure that that's what they had. Actually, I'm sure that's not what they had planned going into the game. But this is what happens when you face Mahomes. You get in a hole and you get scared to be like, I'm going up against either the best or second best quarterback of all time, depending on whatever your rankings are. If he wins his third, I'll put him ahead of Montana for sure at number 2.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, we got to pass the ball. We got to get a lead in this game. It's so scary to play from behind Mahomes, not only because of how good of a passer he is, the command of the offense and the way that he can change pace. He can go up and down the field, or he can methodically do it. It's really tough. And I think that their offense definitely panicked. I think their offensive coordinator panicked. I think Lamar definitely looked panicked the entire game. And that's a tough place to be. So my suggestion to the 49ers is you better get a lead early in that game, because you don't want to play from – you've done it twice. You can't do it a third time with Mahomes leading the charge on the other side.
Yeah, and this Kansas City defense has kind of been like the bright star of the entire season. And now you have the offense. They were like, yeah, we were just going to kind of take it easy. But once we get to the postseason, we'll just turn it back on. We'll use Kelce. We'll do what we normally do. Mahomes will be the star that he is. And then you also have the defense playing at a level that, I don't know, this is like, do you think it's the best defense that they've had going into their Super Bowl?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, without
definitely
doubt.
The best. The 2019 against the 49ers, that was not a very good defense. They had to outscore them.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers defense wasn't that good. They gave up 31 points. Last year's defense was really good, but they got smoked by the Eagles in that Super Bowl. This is like a top 4 defense in the NFL, and seemingly only getting better. So yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult task for the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have the horses to get it done, but do they have the right trigger man? So we'll talk about that in a little bit. It'll be interesting.
And let's talk about the NFC Championship. So San Francisco ended up beating Detroit 34-31 there. I'll ask you about Dan Campbell in a second, but this is 49ers defense is not looking as good as we're used to it, which is very interesting, especially going into this game. Thoughts, comments, concerns, questions about this game?
Yeah, so San Francisco's defense, DVOA, I think they're 22nd since Halloween. So they definitely have not been playing well. Yeah. Slow starts. I mean, the slowest of slow starts the last 2 weeks, putting their offense in a hole in both games. Like, and we just mentioned, you can't do that against the Chiefs. No. Good on San Francisco for being able to come back in both games. They made some critical calls. Their offense stepped up when they needed to. They got some lucky breaks. They took advantage of it. and then you're sitting there with, a minute left and they're up by, 10 points. So I'm a little concerned about that San Francisco defense, but
Yeah.
Kansas City doesn't exactly have the weapons on the outside to take advantage of the secondary the way that Green Bay and Detroit was able to. So that makes it a little bit of a more interesting matchup in the Super Bowl.
And then obviously, and it's crazy because I almost spent the time yesterday but didn't really care because I felt like people that have listened to my show have said that my concern with Dan Campbell has always been that it's going to come down to one of these spots and the aggression is going to end up biting him a little bit in the ass. Do I think that Dan Campbell deserves all the blame? Absolutely not. I don't really care as much about when he went for it the second time. It was more the first time that I was just like a little, I feel like we could have just taken the 3 there and then you probably would have been in a different situation towards the end of the game. Where are you at with Dan Campbell?
Live by it, die by it.
Yeah.
Let Dan Campbell be Dan Campbell. And also, if you look at the analytics on all 3, so at the end of the first half, he could have gone for a touchdown. He kicked the field goal to go up 17. Now, the stats would say that's actually a good decision there to be a little bit more cautious. The thing is, at the end of the half, you don't get the benefit of pinning their other offense deep because you're at the end of the half. So it makes sense to actually kick the field goal there. So I like that move. The other 2, it was 0.3% and 0.2% in the advantage of going for it. So it's a true 50-50 call. Yeah. The players have to execute. Yeah. They didn't. And this is what happens. But you're playing a team that can, like they saw, put up 34 points like that. They put up 27 points in the 27 points or whatever they put up in the second half.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, pedal to the metal. This is this team's identity. And you might get burned by it, and they did yesterday. But that wasn't the only reason that they lost. I mean, the whole momentum flipped because a ball hit the guy's helmet and Ayuk made a fantastic play. Yeah. Guess what? It's the NFL. It's an oblong ball. Shit fucking happens. Yeah. Let Dan Campbell coach like Dan Campbell. And I say I would have done anything differently. I'm totally in support. Would I have kicked the field goal one at a time to make sure you were up 17 again? Maybe. Yeah. But this is this team's identity. I can't fault them for it at all.
Yeah, stick with it. Like, stick by your guns. That's how he is. And sometimes it's going to work because he also would have looked like a fucking genius if it did go in their favor. I think there were some really unfortunate Lions drops too. Like, you look at Josh Reynolds, another guy probably not having a great day today. Cam Sutton is, I won't be super mean. I'll just say he's interesting. I think that you saw that he was the primary defender versus all of these wide receivers that have gone off against the Lions. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. They really need to address that secondary. And then, they're in a spot. Do you think they extend Goff? Like, where do you think that is headed?
Yeah, I think Goff is going to get some sort of extension, and he's worthy of it at this point. Obviously, the concern is Ben Johnson might leave to be a head coach somewhere else. And then you get into a situation like the Eagles last year. Like, you have to make sure that you replace those coordinators with competent guys that fit your team in order to keep the momentum going. Yeah. So that'll be interesting and a tough decision for him. I think Goff will get what I think they should do is like a 3-year, $120 million deal. Keep it short, but pay him a lot of money per year. I think for 3 more years, Jared Goff is going to be a good starter in the NFL. What is he, 30, 31 years old?
Yeah.
It seems like if you're a competent quarterback in the NFL, 35, 36 is no problem at this point. So I'd ride it out with the Lions at quarterback. Maybe they want to draft someone in the second round to develop ahead of Hendon Hooker, because I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do long term.
Right.
And then the rest of the team, a lot depends on if Ben Johnson leaves, what's the deal with the offensive coordinator position there. And then they're going to have to add some money on defense, but they have like $50 million in cap room.
Yeah.
And people are going to want to go play for Dan Campbell. I think that people like to set up in Detroit. So you'll get some, like, you can go out and get, he played terribly yesterday, but as a 1-year mercenary deal, you can go get Chase Young. You can get like guys like that in the secondary. Like, the Lions are going to be an attractive destination.
Yeah, there's actually some very attractive defensive players that are hitting the free agency market this off season. Let's just talk about the Super Bowl. I'm ready to talk about this. It's a rematch from Super Bowl 54. It felt, like I said earlier, very inevitable that we were going to get the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy will lead the 49ers. the conspiracy theorists were quite wrong. I think the NFL knew that, had to get rid of the purple, or any way that purple was going to end up on the logo and making sense there. Spread opened up as San Francisco 2.5-point favorites. It's now 1.5. There's quite a few ones out there. Let's just right off the bat with the spread. Are you surprised that the 49ers are favored?
No, not at all. I think they're very clearly, to me, the more talented team.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, they may have a little bit of a home field advantage, just given how close San Francisco and Vegas are. And because of the corporate types that go to the Super Bowl, it leans a lot more towards Silicon Valley. So I think there is an advantage there. That being said, I'm not surprised that this line has shifted more towards the Chiefs, because I think that everybody's been burnt betting against Mahomes as a dog, and I don't think that they want to be in that market anymore. And I think the books are more than happy to take on this Chiefs money, because all of their liability long term is on San Francisco winning the Super Bowl. So I'm not surprised to see the movement, and I anticipate that this will close as a pick'em or pretty close to it.
Yeah, I think so too. Total open between 48 and 47. It's sitting there 47.5. The Chiefs have only allowed 41 points in the postseason. Like, they have been playing so fantastic. Where do you think this closes? And are you leaning one way or the other? Right now, I am leaning the under.
Yeah, I'm absolutely leaning towards the under. I like 47.5, but this is the Super Bowl. What does everybody want to bet? They want to bet the over. Yeah. Wait, I anticipate, unless there's a ton of sharp money driving this down early in the week, which hasn't really happened at this point, just wait. You may see a 48.5. So I'm not going to bet it yet, but I'm definitely going to have an under position here at some point.
Yeah, I am with you on that. How do you think San Francisco wins this game?
Run the damn ball. Mm-hmm. I think that's it. Kansas City's 28th versus the rush, DVOA this season. They're spectacular against the pass. You do not want the Chiefs defensive line coming at Brock Purdy, getting tip passes and forcing turnovers. You have the best running back in the NFL, and you have Deebo Samuel. And even then, you take them out, Elijah Mitchell, perfectly capable as a running back in this league. Yeah. Brock Purdy scrambling yesterday. Fantastic, 51 rushing yards. They should lean on that early and often. Get him out from behind center. Don't let him sit in the pocket. I think that's the way San Francisco wins. Get the ball to the playmakers as much as possible. You don't have to take deep shots down the field. Just let them do what they do in space. I think Shanahan knows that. The question is Purdy going to turn the ball over? And if that happens, you're giving Mahomes more possessions. That's my big concern for San Francisco in this game.
Yeah, I think Purdy needs to get rid of the ball faster too. He has the 4th longest average time in the pocket. I think San Francisco's defense too. You need to go back to what you were doing all season long. You saw Goff absolutely, essentially carving up the 49ers for a majority of that game. There was a lot of crucial drops. That game actually probably could have gone another direction more than the first game. And I mean, you look at the postseason, San Francisco's defense has given up 770 total yards in their 2 postseason games. That's a fucking lot of yards. That's a lot of fucking yards. That's a lot of yards. So this defense needs to figure it out, because you were watching the Lions with, it felt like just destroying them across the middle there.
Absolutely. And running the ball too, or especially early in the game. David Montgomery was carving them up. Jahmyr Gibbs had a couple nice runs. They were running on 3rd and 12s and getting first downs. Also, San Francisco's defense on 3rd down, not good against the Packers, and were terrible yesterday. In consecutive drives, they did 3rd and 12, 3rd and 18. So San Francisco did, they found it a little bit at the end. They forced some turnovers. That's great, but they've given up way too many yards, and you can't do that with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you talk about Jared Goff and Jordan Love carving you up. This is the best quarterback in the league. He's going to smoke you.
Yeah. We're talking greatest quarterback now.
Yeah.
So I remember, actually, do you remember, this was last year, I think we did a random show, and we were talking about, do you think Mahomes could ever surpass Tom Brady? And I was so adamantly no. My stance was you guys are fucking crazy. That's ridiculous. I don't know. Now, I think that you could convince me otherwise. I think with his age and with what this team looks like, and it depends a lot on maybe I don't know. I think that it could happen.
It could definitely happen. I don't know how you get past the 7 Super Bowls. If Mahomes gets to 7, I'd probably give the nod to Mahomes, given that he's been so consistent this far. I mean, He's been a starter for 6 years. He's been in the AFC Championship all 6 years. He's been to 4 Super Bowls. He might win a third. So those numbers are crazy.
Yeah.
Eye test. I mean, Mahomes is more dynamic, but you never felt like Brady was ever out of a game, just like the heart of a champion. It's fun that we get to have this argument. We got 20 years of Brady. Now we got another 10 years at least of Mahomes, 30 years of watching basically the equivalents of Michael Jordan in football. Who hates that?
Yeah, we either need Eli Manning to come back or maybe the Giants will just they're waiting. My conspiracy about the Giants waiting for Arch Manning, it would be hilarious if he ends up being the one that takes down Mahomes because someone's got to handle him at this point. Have you looked at any player props?
I have not. I have some players circled that could be X factors that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah.
For one, like Kansas City. So they're going up against San Francisco's defense. San Francisco's susceptible in the secondary. Someone's going to have to get over the top. And the guy somehow, beyond a miracle that he's been relevant the last 2 games, caught the biggest pass yesterday, MVS. So some sort of longest reception over for MVS in this game makes sense to me in theory. I have no idea what that number would be, but that would be kind of where I'm looking. McCaffrey over carries. I think that San Francisco, you saw even when they were down yesterday, they were still calling run plays. That's what Kyle Shanahan does, which I love because we just saw the Ravens go away from it. You can't do that. You got to stick to your guns here. So Christian McCaffrey over rushing attempts, I would like in theory. And then also, I think based on his health, he looked good yesterday. Deebo Samuel over rushing yards as well, taking advantage of that weak Kansas City defense. I really, really love that spot. If you can get a number under, 12.5, I think that he'll get 4 or 5 carries in this game.
Yeah, and that's weird. That opened for yesterday's game at like 8.5, which was pretty low for him. Obviously, that had to do with his health, but I'm with you on that. I think Kittle too here he tends to be Purdy's kind of like pacifier when they're going against these like very heavy blitz schemes. Like you've seen him have these big games like versus Green Bay, Tampa, like Minnesota. So I would like to look at Kittle's yards. My gut tells me that number is probably going to come down a little bit. And I think that's part of it when it comes to the Super Bowl is like, when is the right time to bet some of these numbers?
Usually early and often as soon as they're released. That's generally the rule.
Yeah.
You can wait and see which ways the action's going. But I more think like target the guys that you want.
Yeah.
Do your read based on the game and then hammer those early. And then read the market, go on Action Network, go on Twitter and see, where the sharps or the smarter bettors are trending to populate, who's going to be big key difference makers in the game, and then target those markets.
Yeah. So the bets I have placed, you kind of mentioned it before. I've already taken Purdy's over 10.5 rushing yards. Again, he's given us glimpses of this little bit of mobility that he has, especially like versus these high pressure pass rushes all season long. He ran for 48 yards yesterday. I think I have no problem taking that right now at 10.5. I wouldn't be surprised if that closes closer to 12.5.
There's one random bet that I love in this game.
Ooh.
Total prop, total random, but whatever. Last play of the game to be a kneel down. It hasn't happened in like 5. It hasn't happened in like 5 Super Bowls, I believe. And it's a normal way for games to end. I kind of like it this year. I have no read. There's no reason to bet that, but this is what the Super Bowl is about. Random shit against the wall.
Yeah, we're going to have to definitely do some novelty stuff next week for sure. Because this is where you and I, we thrive in this degenerate, this is like what we wait for all year. Like I cannot wait to place all of these absolutely stupid bets, going into the Super Bowl. Mahomes, I wanted to ask you about his rushing prop is at 25.5 yards. I think I like his attempts better at over 4.5. Any thoughts about this?
Kneel downs, baby. I like it for Purdy and Mahomes to be over. Mahomes in the playoffs, he's going to get out there and scramble. I like it for this game. I love the over 4.5. I think that I would bet that ahead of the yards. But if you want to do those yards, I would bet it as early as possible because those tend to go up 4 or 5 yards through the course of the week. And now you have 2 weeks, might go up even further.
Yeah. And of course, what I always do is bet these interception props. I've already taken Brock Purdy's over to get 1 interception minus 105. Going up against a Spags defense is difficult, and I think that they can get Purdy to put himself into some crappy positions. I'm tempted to take Mahomes too, but that's just being bratty because he hasn't thrown one in like 6 playoff games or something crazy. So that's just like, oh, the trend's got to come to an end. Like, that's how the 49ers can capitalize here if you can get Mahomes to make a couple mistakes. So I think I'll end up having both of them to throw on.
I think the last time that they played the Super Bowl, Mahomes had either 2 or 3 interceptions. So, yeah, different defense, different coordinator, but he definitely threw a couple against San Francisco in that game. I like the Purdy one. I think that the Kansas City defensive line is going to get to Purdy. I don't really love San Francisco's offensive line outside of Trent Williams. And I think they're going to be in his face. He's short. He's had a lot of tip passes the last couple of weeks. Yes. I wouldn't be surprised to see one tipped in the air and Chiefs get an interception.
Yeah, and the last time these two teams met, Jimmy G threw 2. So maybe we'll just stay on brand and we'll get Brock Purdy to throw 2 here. Have you looked at MVP odds at all? Is there anything that catches your eye?
So I think if you're going to bet on, actually, there's a couple ways to do this. If you like Kansas City to win the game, there's actually a better way to play than betting them at +1. Just bet Mahomes to win MVP because there's not a whole lot of paths for the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game where Mahomes is not named MVP. Look at yesterday. They had 17 points. Kelce had an insane game. They would have named an MVP in that game. It would have been Mahomes. So I don't know how you get past that. I think he's +130 right now. If you like the Chiefs to win, Mahomes kind of a lock. The only other player that I can think of, if Kelce has 15 for 202, like, okay, maybe he gets it. Pacheco, if he had like 3 rushing touchdowns and Mahomes didn't have any.
His odds are nice. They're like 38-1 or something.
So that's possible. I don't see a defensive player doing it. Like, even if Chris Jones had like 3 sacks in the game, he's not getting it over Mahomes. No. They'd have to be like a guy who had 2 interceptions and a return for a touchdown. It's just way too random to bet on. So I would stick to, even the Kelce one I have a problem with. Because if Kelce goes off, it's going to be Mahomes anyway. So Mahomes and Pacheco would probably be the only ways that I would play the Chiefs. 49ers, you got a lot of fucking options. I know. So I don't know. What do you kind of like? I wouldn't bet Purdy, I don't think.
No, I don't think I would either. But then I'm kind of sitting here thinking, like, do they get themselves into a situation like the last couple of weeks where it is Purdy that kind of gets them over the hump to win the game at the end there? Like,
okay, well, think about the game yesterday then. Who would have been the MVP of the game yesterday? I don't think it would have been Purdy. I think it would have been McCaffrey.
Yeah. Well, McCaffrey seems like it probably seems like the best bet there for him because I don't know that anyone else has been playing like crazy good that you could make an argument for them. Like, I don't know that that's going to change in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Debo could pop off. Those are the only. Yeah. I would probably bet McCaffrey and Debo offensively if I were going to go there. Defensively, I mean, you got some options. Yeah, Nick Bosa could have a crazy game. He has 4 sacks, a strip sack, something like that, where I could see him winning it. Fred Warner, Drake Greenlaw, if they took one to the house. But you're talking about really random stuff. I don't see like a player way down the list for either team that's going to make that possibly could be Super Bowl MVP. But it happens from time to time, so you never know.
I don't see it happening in this game. Like, I think this is the first Super Bowl in like a little bit where I don't feel like super comfortable taking some long shot on one of these guys.
Like, who would the long shot be offensively for either team?
I think Pacheco is the furthest down I would go, probably. And then I don't even know for San Fran. It'd have to be a defensive player.
I mean, last year you could have made the case that if Patrick Mahomes was not named MVP, like Kadarius Toney could have been named MVP, like with the punt return. I'm serious.
No,
with the punt return and the receiving touchdown, like it was only 2 plays, but they were massively valuable. So it would have to be a player like that. I'm not sure that player exists on Kansas City unless you're saying MVS has like 2 for 160 and 2 touchdowns.
Right. Yeah.
San Francisco. Kyle Juszczyk has 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't know.
He's someone I bet his over 1.5 receiving yards. Also, that's like one I saw that was just like that's just a low number and it's at -110, and I'm just gonna bet it right now.
Over half a reception hit yesterday.
Yeah, I love it. Any final thoughts before I let you get out of here?
You know what? Do we have 5 minutes?
Yeah, we have as much time as you want.
All right, let's go through the game that we did last week.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, quarterback,
Patrick Mahomes.
coach.
I think I still take Andy Reid.
He's got 2 Super Bowls and a lot more experience than Shanahan. Shanahan's been disastrous holding leads in the Super Bowl. So.
He's also very good off of like a week of rest. Like he's like 31-7 straight up off of a bye.
Yeah, so I would probably lean towards Reid also. Skill positions, fairly obvious that this has to go to San Francisco, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, offensive line.
Kansas City? Yeah, I don't know.
That one was really close for me. I put question marks next to both because I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go.
Yeah, I think you could make a case for it. I don't know that I feel strongly enough to say one or the other.
Defense.
I mean, right now as it stands, I am taking Kansas City because they've been playing phenomenal.
Yeah, Kansas City has been playing better. San Francisco has more talent. Which one wins out in a 1-game scenario? I lean towards Kansas City given how they're playing right now. Also, they did lose a Menahue. He tore his ACL. That's a big hit to them.
It is.
But San Francisco, huge liability in the secondary. So I lean towards Kansas City. And then special teams.
Well, can you even take San Francisco because of Moody? I mean, I don't think you can. I would be surprised if San Francisco doesn't go out and get another kicker next year with the way that he was this year.
Yeah, so 2 things on this. One, I agree. I think it's Kansas City. I don't think either team's going to be dynamic in a return game at all. It's kind of been taken out of the game for better or worse. And then Harrison Butker, big game kicker. So he's been in enough Super Bowls. I think he'll be fine. Jake Moody's going to be shitting his pants. The last point I had on this, teams should just never draft kickers. It doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
I can't name the last one. Evan McPherson was a good one. Other than that, they've all been terrible. So just don't waste your draft capital on kickers. So that means quarterback, coach, maybe offensive line, defense, and special teams are all Kansas City. San Francisco only win is skill positions.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
It makes you think. Well, this feels like one. I just feel gross for either. Like I want to root for the 49ers here. But again, like I think we have learned to not bet against Mahomes.
I don't know if I've ever told you this rule before, but I always root for dynasties because if my team can't win, I don't want anyone else to be happy. I'd just rather have one team win it always.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm rooting for Kansas City.
Okay, you're very bratty in that sense. Exactly. I love it. Probably will end up on the Chiefs here. All right, I'll let you go, and then I'll see you next week. We'll do some of these novelty bets like we like to bet on here.
I can't wait. Thanks, Smalls.
All right, see ya. And then producer Ryan is back. How's it going?
Oh, hey, how's it going? I am back from the wedding.
Feeling hungover? Feeling good?
Feeling a little hungover, a little anxious. Got that like anxiety from too much activity over the weekend. Yeah. So all good though. Yeah. Excited for the Super Bowl. Excited to talk Super Bowl.
Yes. Me too.
So
let's do some of these questions. What was that?
Yeah, you had some tweets that went off over the weekend. Though.
I did have a couple of tweets that went off over the weekend.
So you want to explain this one?
I feel really proud of this one because I thought of it very quickly. The purple is from Taylor Swift's album, Speak Now. What were we thinking? I mean, come on now. Makes total sense. I guess you could put the conspiracy theorists might be right. They were just thinking the wrong purple. It wasn't the Ravens. And it was just Taylor Swift's album.
This one I think you nailed.
I feel like it's very on brand for me too. Brock Purdy he's so wholesome and he's so easy to root for, like just for the story. I know that I feel like the internet is so rude about him. If he was drafted earlier, people would not be giving him a hard time. Like we should be celebrating the fact that he was Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, he looks like a dad getting to the airport 6 hours early just to be safe. I think if you put some
he's good. He's taking Kirk Cousins like dad corner.
I like it though. It's like they're both all the Coles cash. Who has more? Probably still Kirk, but.
And this is one you predicted
I did.
Taylor Swift would have a athlete boyfriend era.
Yeah,
in
July. And the Swifties found it, and they were all going off about it last night. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you predicted it." So I think I'm in good graces again. So we went from them hating me, being at war with me, but then I think I willed this happening. So basically, the Swifties can thank me.
The Smallsies and the Swifties together again.
Yes, we reunited.
All right, and it feels so good. Question 1. From Big Boy Bets at Big Boy Bets 92, will you be running back the Kelce Kittle lay for the Super Bowl? Which I thought was a good question. That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Ran it back last week. Didn't feel great about Kittle in that spot. Feel much better about him in this spot here. I've also already bet Kelce to get 80 plus receiving yards, and fuck it, we'll run it back. Hit once, half of it hit yesterday. So why can't it happen in the Super Bowl?
Great. Question 2. Chances of this happening. This is from Sports Fiend, at Sports Fiends with a Z. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Andy Reid retires. Bill Belichick takes over. Does that happen? What are the chances?
Zero. I guess there's always a chance of something. One. I would be shocked. Bill is old. I think people forget too. Are you going to replace an old guy with an older guy? I don't know if that's I feel like that's not this.
Yeah, but if he retires, I don't know. That seems kind of weird. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I just don't think Andy Reid's retiring. What else does that guy do?
I don't think so either. I don't know why you would.
He's 7 years younger than Belichick, I think.
And you have Mahomes. You have Mahomes. Where are you going? Why would you leave? I wouldn't leave. Ride it out as long as you possibly can, because the likelihood that you get 1 or 2 more Super Bowls before you retire is a hell of a lot higher than every other coach in the league.
Yeah, everybody was down on them coming into the playoffs, and here we are yet again, them going to the Super Bowl. Because
they just get to coast. I heard Gronk talking today where it seems boring to watch them because they always find success. So it's not as exciting for them during the regular season, so they don't get as much hype. But then you get to the postseason, you're like, oh, they're just doing what they do best, and it's winning.
Final question from Craig Ruth. When will Steve Spagnuolo start getting more credit for what he does?
After this game. He needs to. I tweeted out, he is last year when they won the Super Bowl, he became the first coordinator to win a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. And that's offensive and defensive coordinator. So he won the Giants once and the Chiefs twice.
There you go.
Yeah, he's the best.
Those are all our questions.
Okay.
We'll be back tomorrow with a golf show.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Tomorrow, Pebble Beach, do some golf betting, and then normal scheduled show for Friday. And then doing the show all week from circa Super Bowl week. We'll get the schedule out for that and what that's going to look like. But appreciate everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate, review if you're listening. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Watch him make it, break it, break it, break it.